So we all agree Jinx is totally alive, right? I mean, we all know how fast she is, so she could totally have jumped away from that explosion into an air vent that was perfectly placed right where she was falling. And it's not like we haven't seen Jinx sneak in and steal stuff from Piltover before, so her stealing an airship and then flying off on it is 100% in the realm of possibility. Or what do you think, voice actor of Jinx, Ella Purnell?
Jinx actually dead?
We don't know.
Who knows?
You might.
Well, that was ambiguous. Regardless of what they say, I think we can make a pretty good case for Jinx being alive, and so we're going to be operating on the information that she is. At the end of Act 3, Jinx has decided that she is done with the cycle of prejudice and pain that Son and Piltover are forever stuck in, and so she rid herself of everything that bound her to the cities, said her goodbyes to her sister, and rode off into the sunset, presumably to... Yeah, actually, where is she going? Looking at the map of Runeterra, we can start to draw some connections. We can already strike Piltover and Son off the list, given that that's the place she's leaving. I also think we can rule out Noxus, considering everything Jinx and the people she cares about went through because of Noxus. I doubt she would be eager to go to a place that almost conquered her home and killed her friends. Also, thinking about this from a meta perspective, we've already had 2 seasons with Jinx being one of the main characters, and so having her fly over to where the next series is going to be taking place, just to steal the spotlight away from new characters, would feel really weird. On another note, we also see that when Jinx is flying away, she's riding over water, which means that we can also ignore places like Shurima and Targon, which she would have to fly over land to reach. I also just don't see a reason why she would want to go to Shurima, which, considering on when Arcane takes place, is either just a giant ruin with a few tiny kingdoms dispersed around the desert, or Targon, which is full of gods, trained warriors, and magical creatures. Just doesn't really match her style, you know? And while we're on the topic of vibes, let's also remove the Shadow Isles and the Freljord from the list of possibilities. Shadow Isles are, kind of busy with their own thing, and I just kind of doubt that the girl who spends the better part of Arcane wearing the biggest midriff known to man is going to be a fan of the actual North Pole. Lastly, I also want to strike Ionia from the record completely. The fastest way to reach Ionia would be to fly through Noxus, which again, she wouldn't want to do. It's also a land completely consumed by magic and the arcane. And considering her last experiences with magic was Victor taking over her entire town and reanimating her dead father, I don't think she wants anything more to do with it. Also, I think there's a big chance that Jinx isn't even thinking about a specific place to fly off to, and it's rather just flying off into the distance and seeing where she'll end up. Following that logic, while we're looking at the map, there are only really 2 good candidates that she would go to. Plus, you know, we kind of wrote off all the other possibilities earlier. Bilgewater and Demacia, and they are both perfect alternatives for Jinx, and the most likely place where she would end up if she's just flying in a straight line over the water. I mean, she would have to make a turn eventually for Demacia, but it's straight enough. Let's start with Bilgewater. Bilgewater, the haven for smugglers, marauders, and the unscrupulous, where fortunes are made and ambitions are shattered in the blink of an eye. This lawless land is the perfect spot for someone looking for a new beginning, just like Jinx. We were talking about vibes earlier, and this place is absolutely on point for Jinx. A place that is just about as chaotic as she is, and where she could absolutely thrive. She would have no problem earning coin in this pirate paradise by working as either a bounty or a monster hunter. With her shimmer modifications and hextech powered weapons, remember she still has 1 crystal, it would be easy for Jinx to make a name for herself, especially considering her biggest competitions are people like Graves and Sarah Fortune, who just have worse guns. I can also see Jinx building better weapons and gadgets that she could sell as a way to gain power and influence in Bilgewater. I mean, they desperately need the upgrade. In terms of what her role in the story would be if we ever travel to Bilgewater for a new series, I can absolutely see Jinx playing a part in Sarah Fortune's dethroning of the Pirate Lord and ruler of Bilgewater Gangplank, either as an independent party or even as a part of Miss Fortune's crew. I mean, a red-haired girl boss who wants revenge against a leader and government that killed her parents? It might strike a nerve. Besides, she's already had experience with 1 revolution against an oppressive government. What's 1 more? Or maybe she won't do any of that and find something completely different to do. That's the beauty of Bilgewater. Anything's possible as long as you have the right mindset for it, and this place is literally perfect for Jinx. Or at least, it was. Bilgewater feels more like a place for old Jinx, before Season 2, but things are different now. She lost both her fathers twice, lost Isha, and watched her sister move on to a better life without her. After all this, I don't think Jinx is the same person as she used to be. She's absolutely still a chaotic, fun-loving maniac, but she's also grown. She's been through a really rough year, and I can absolutely see her wanting to go somewhere completely different than what she's used to get away from the chaos, and given her recent experiences with magic, I can absolutely see her wanting to go to a place where she'll never have to deal with it again. Demacia. Aside from Noxus, Demacia is probably the biggest kingdom on Valorant. and thus would be a perfect place for starting a new life, which is exactly what Jinx is looking for after everything that went down in Piltover. She's literally been through hell and came out the other side a changed person. At this point, she just wants to find some place where she'll be left alone and she can create a new life for herself. In fact, after all the chaos she's had in her life, I can definitely see her wanting to find the complete opposite, and there is no better place for that than the kingdom of Demacia. A whole kingdom consisting almost entirely of the Arcane's biggest haters and the biggest ops that Noxus has ever seen would be a perfect fit for Jinx, considering that magic and Noxus are probably the two biggest things Jinx would be avoiding when looking for a new home. Demacia is also very welcoming towards new citizens, you know, as long as they aren't magic. Yeah, they really don't fuck with magic. But thankfully, Jinx is enhanced with shimmer and not magic, so I don't think she'll have any problems with getting in, as long as she keeps her hex crystal hidden. Unlike with Bilgewater though, I don't really see Jinx making a name for herself in Demacia. Demacia really isn't that open to changes and would never approve of Jinx's weapons being a part of their military. But this isn't really a bad thing. In fact, I think Jinx just getting to exist in Demacia and figure herself out would be just what she needs. You know, as long as she doesn't pull any, let's just call them stunts. But if I'm being honest, even then, I don't really think it would be that big of a deal for Demacia. As long as she doesn't kill anyone important, I really don't see Demacia hunting Jinx down. Especially considering that they are either busy hunting down and then throwing mages into concentration camps, or just actually stuck in an all-out civil war against the mages that have been oppressed. Yeah, like I said, Demacia really doesn't like mages, and just like Piltover, is far from a perfect place. A fact that is especially bad considering that their very own Princess Luxana Crown Guard is secretly a mage. But just like in Bilgewater, I think Jinx will find something to empathize with within Demacia. Either with the mages who, just like Son, are being oppressed by the ruling class, or even with Lux herself, who currently is a scared girl with incredible potential. Sound familiar? I mean, one way or another, I definitely see Jinx and Lux meeting up and becoming close, considering that literally every other version of them are apparently best friends. Or even more than that if you go by Star Guardian. Which, speaking of that, I would like to say that I am by no means a shipper, but I really hope that they go down the light cannon route, and it's for one simple reason. It would be so unbelievably funny if they, after spending so much time building up and getting people invested into Time Bomb, going as far as to even make it canon in another timeline, if they then went on to say, actually, never mind, she's getting with Lux. That would actually be so hilarious. Like, never mind guys, she's a girl kisser. Going back to the main plot though, I can definitely see Jinx getting involved with the Mage Rebellion in some way. Maybe as a straight up fighter, or simply by supplying them with weapons. It would make sense that she wouldn't want to get involved in another conflict right away after Piltover, but I still think that after everything she went through, she would want to help fight against that oppressive government. Especially if she's friends with Lux. Yeah, those are my answers for where Jinx is going. I really do believe that it's either Demacia or Bilgewater, and I really think that which one you think it'll end up being really just comes down to how you think Jinx's mindset is after the Battle of Piltover. Did she go back to being her normal, chaos-loving self, or did she grow away from that and now wants to try and find a new way of life? Tell me what you think in the comments below, and while you're at it, subscribe! I know you aren't subscribed right now, John. You better click that red button, John! My analytics don't just tell me that you, and yes, I mean you specifically, watching this video are not subscribed, but they also tell me where you live, and if you don't click that button, I will have to act on that information. But also tell me in the comments what you think Jinx's next story arc will be. I doubt she'll end up a main character anywhere, but I definitely think she still has a role to play as a supporting character for either Lux or Sarah Fortune. Stay Jinx, guys.